Okay. So I don't know to what point I left you, um, but I had said air quality management refers to all activities that a regulatory body saddled with that responsibility, most times by law, to help protect human health and the environment from harmful effects of air pollution. Um, is usually a designated authority that is enabled legally to be able to provide that protection that people need. And remember, it's not only about the people, it's also about the other environmental components, living components of the environment. So you're not protecting people only. You're also looking at the other living components of the environment. And we have people, we have animals, we have plants, and all of this makes up uh, the environment, living components of the environment. We have the non-living components. They're also very essential. But regarding air pollution, um, you're focusing on the living components. Indirectly, the non-living components are also affected. If there's a spillage, for example, oil spillage, the water around that area will be affected. The plants and animals will be affected. The soil will be affected. And if these various components are affected, it comes back to man, it comes back to the animals, whatever lives in that area. That is regarding spillage. What about an air pollutant? Maybe emissions from an industry, for example, into the air. The plants, you go to some factories, um, especially cement production factories, you will see the soot that comes upon the plants, the soil, and it's an emission from the company into the air, and then it comes back. So the point I'm making is it's easy to just say man as the first um, component of the environment that is affected, but the other components are also affected. So sometimes it's coming directly to man from the source, or it gets to these other components, and then by man's interaction with the components, it gets also affected. So what we take note here is a regulatory authority is charged with the responsibility to protect human health and the environment and is protecting it from the effects of air pollutants. So the process is usually illustrated in a circle like this. The agency will first establish goals. What does it want to achieve? What are the common pollutants, air pollutants that are in a particular environment where it has oversight, the agency has oversight. And then what ways can these pollutants be reduced, or what ways can they be prevented from getting into the air? And what does the consequences of not taking action, what would it look like? You see, so if it is something that people need to take protective measures, this also comes in the goals. The goals will simply mean what the agency intends to achieve. And that can come after it has done an assessment of what is the problem, how it affects people and the environment, and then what can be done. The second stage is to determine emission reduction limits. We have standard limits for certain emissions, World Health Organization limits, and then for us in Nigeria, we have national limits for certain emissions. So you determine the limits, determine to what extent the pollutant is going to be limited from having effects on man and the environment. And then the agency will develop control strategies to ensure that what it has set out to achieve is achieved. Once that is done, implementation of the program is carried out. Once that is achieved, there will be an evaluation, and that evaluation continues as long as the program exists. So the first cycle you have done what you expect to do. You will undertake an assessment to see how much of your goals were achieved, and if something needs to be done differently, you start it all over again. So a government institution is usually that agency that is established to be able to regulate air quality. In our country, we have NESRIA, I think at the national level, which used to be Federal Environmental Protection Agency. NESRIA is empowered to be able to protect, regulate, and protect not only air pollution, but all forms of environmental issues that we can have, which have effects on man and environmental resources. Yeah, please confirm if you still hear me.
We can hear you, sir.
Good.
We can hear you.
I need to be checking so that. Thank you. That check is important so that I'm not talking to myself alone. I tried to put the slide on presentation mode so we can see it. But if I go back, are you able to see it clearly at this point?
No. Yes. We can see it.
Okay.
We can see.
So you need to speak, because if I get to presentation mode, I'm not likely to see your reactions. Okay. So, like I said, we have NESRIA in the country. At the state level, we have the Ministries of Environment, and though there is always some friction between what the national should be doing and what the state ministries of environment should be doing. Some state governments may have specialized agency empowered by law to do certain aspects of this protection that we're talking about. But those are the agencies that we have, ensuring that we have a cleaner environment that people can live in with less issues. So air quality managers, those who head those agencies, need to determine how much emission reductions will need to be achieved. And once that is done, they will carry out inventories. Like I said, you need to know what is affecting the people, and then what can be done to reduce that effect on the people. The control measures, we're just talking briefly the parts of that sector now. Developing control measures. The managers need to consider how to protect the people from pollutants and the techniques that can be applied to achieve the targets they have set. If you don't want an emission from a company, what steps do you need to take to be able to protect people from being exposed to that emission? You get to the company and look at their equipment. Usually, if they were established properly, there would have been an environmental impact assessment or an environmental and social impact assessment. And in that report, the mitigation measures to reduce the effect of that pollutant would have been stated. But even if it is not done, the agency can carry out its own assessments and know what needs to be done and approach the facility to do what is expected. For cement production, for example, the dust, that's what we can say in lay terms, that is emitted into the air, can be prevented by having a device, electrostatic precipitator. So it has the capacity to trap the dust and not let it out during the process of cement production. So that's an example. The agency can approach the company and then check whether there are control measures to keep these pollutants from getting into the air. So if that is done, that is the implementation of that particular device. When the device is installed, it can now begin to monitor its performance. Is it achieving what was set out to achieve? So that is where the capacity and the strength of those agencies to do and to enforce comes in. Usually, people who set up businesses are not very keen on this kind of steps, because to them, they can run their businesses without those installations, and they will still make money. So if a regulatory agency wants to approach them to have the devices in place, it is looked upon as extra costs that at best should be delayed if it must be incurred. But if we want to focus on the well-being of people and the environment while we aspire to produce, everything has to go together. So once the device is installed, its operation is monitored to see that we do not have that pollutant into the air. And the agency has the right, because if it is instituted by law, it also has the power to enforce what needs to be done. In those days, when we used to hear about FEPA. Some of you who are young may not know much. I think at the point we had a DG that was always in the news, moving from one state to the other, shutting down companies, giving them deadlines to be able to have certain installations in their companies that must protect people, their workers, and then the people who work around them. But the issue has always been the cost of some of those technologies and how the cost will affect the end market price of the product that is being produced. So company owners will feel they are in a dilemma because they could run and emit the pollutants into the air, and the product will be affordable because the cost of production will be less, and then the product is affordable. And if the product is affordable, people will be able to buy it. But when certain technologies are insisted upon, the cost of establishing the company and operating it will increase. And then sometimes these technologies need to be imported. The issue of foreign exchange and all of that comes in, and the consumer of that product is the one who finally bears the cost. And what consumers do is that once the price of a product is beyond what they can take, they will begin to look for alternatives. So how can we strike a balance? The balance is to continue to seek innovative ways in which the problem can be solved. And that is why local production capacity is important. Is there any agency, any university that can contemplate to produce those additional technologies that some of these companies would need? If that is done, the cost of producing them will be less because it will not require foreign exchange because it's produced locally. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you have the opportunity to regulate, if you have the opportunity to head a company, a regulatory body set up by government, these are the realities you will face. The reality is that some of these devices, technologies, additional technologies, increase the cost of production. And if you have the opportunity to conduct an environmental impact assessment for such a company, what will you be saying? So it's your duty to look for the most recent technologies. It's your duty to look for alternative sources of components of that action that needs to be taken, so that you can advise on what looks feasible. And government also has a role to play, because for some companies, not that the technology is too difficult to acquire, but running it becomes a big problem. I know of the electrostatic precipitator in cement companies. The machines required a lot of water to be able to run. And some of these companies are located in places where they will not have water all year round. So that becomes a big problem, and to be able to operate. And so if you're still on the call, just send me a chat right now. Send a chat right now. Just say I am on the call for every one of you. And if at any point you can't hear me, please confirm. Just send a chat on the call. I'm on the call. Just send that to the bots now. Okay, yes. So just keep sending it out. So that's very important to note. If you have the responsibility to, one, manage such a regulatory agency of government, or you have the opportunity to prepare the environmental impact assessment before the company is established. You know that EIAs are done before the company is established, even though people, they go ahead and then the processes that should establish the company are coming behind. But ideally, it should be when the company has not yet started. So once that is done, you undertake evaluation. And that's another weak aspect of our practice in our country. You go to regulatory agencies and they will tell you, we don't have fuel to carry out our routine evaluation activities. We don't have vehicles. We don't have running costs to go out and come back. So agencies like this, just like every other agency, needs funding to be active and relevant. So evaluation is a very important aspect of enforcing environmental regulations. If you don't go out to know what is going on, you will not know what is going on. And if you don't know what is going on, then you're not monitoring, you're not taking charge of your jurisdiction. And that means people can be exposed to what they're not supposed to be exposed to. People can be affected, the environment can be affected. So the circle is dynamic and it's always work in progress. Now, the work that you're doing as a manager must be informed by research and data. You cannot go to a place and just assume that you saw something going into the air and then it can cause death. What informs the conclusion that it's going to cause death? So you have to investigate, and after the investigation, the results of your investigation can now be taken out to the appropriate authorities. You can now meet the management of the particular company affected and tell them that this is what is going on and this is how it affects people. If it continues, this is how in the long run, in the short term, the medium term, this is how it affects the people. And sometimes the company itself is affected. So quality managers need to work with people who can conduct research. Again, you may not have it all as an agency. So you can collaborate with people with relevant experience who can provide that support to help you carry out the mandate of the as a regulatory agency. So the process involves everyone, all levels of government. Like I said, there is an agency established by law, but you work with all other relevant agencies of government and to take it to the roots, to the grassroots, to the people who are affected. Because if you don't take it to the people who are affected, you may be doing the work alone. So take it to whoever is affected. All the stakeholders needs to be engaged. So one of the ways to help people change from things that they are not doing correctly is to expose them to information that guides them on the consequences of their actions and the steps that they need to take within their available, the resources that they have. So, like we said, our evaluation is ongoing, and there is scientific research is the key that informs you on what you need to do. Setting the goals. And like if you heard me well, this is done again and again. Why is it done again and again? After going through the first route, for example, after your evaluation, you discover that, okay, we said we will set this pollutant, this limit for this pollutant. But that limit is not good enough. The people are still being affected, or if you did not make maybe use of protective equipment by staff of the company mandatory, for example, or they told you they're going to do it, and then after your first circle, after your evaluation, you discover the people were not doing it. What else do you need to do? That can be a goal. The companies are not complying. What else do you need to do? So every step that helps you achieve more is a goal. And once you put it on the table, you will find ways in which you can implement it. And that begins the next circle. So you determine the extent to which you want that problem solved, and you go ahead and solve it. You evaluate again to check to see how much you have achieved. So air quality management systems have to do with goals and setting standards. And these goals must be smart. It should be something that you're able to achieve, something you can measure, something that is something you can quantify, something you can reduce to numbers so that you can be able to see. This is how much of the pollutant that is being emitted in a particular company, for example. That is measurable. That means you must have done a study, you must have carried out an inventory to see how much of that pollutant is released into the air from the source. And so when you say there is a reduction, you will also check with the first measurement that you took, which could serve as a baseline. So before your intervention, what was the situation? After your intervention, what is the situation? So this is what you're expected to do. And once that is done and is successful, you will consider yourself as moving forward as far as protection of people and the environment is concerned. I listed a number of stakeholders that you need to consult. It is important that that is done. And consultations are important. When you call for a consultation meeting involving all those who are responsible for decision making in the area you're working. So first of all, you need to know who is involved in decision making. If you go into a community where a company is situated, you have management of the company, you have staff of the company, and then the people who live around the company also have their hierarchy. You have their traditional rulers, you have organized associations that have leadership, you may have political leadership in the community, you may have opinion leaders, people who speak and the people who have a voice in those communities. So you involve them and explain all that you want to achieve. Take their concerns, take their inputs, and then it becomes a program that you can work with. So if you say you're a regulatory authority and you will use your power alone, you will spend a lot. But when you make the people that you want to serve know why you want to serve them, and then work with them, you're likely to achieve more. I give an example before I will let anyone who wants to speak. So if you go to the company alone without involving the people, it's you and the company. But the people you want to serve, first of all, are those who are around that company. If the pollutant is a highly localized one, that is, if the effect is not going to go very, very far. Even if it's going to go far, the first group of people who will be recipients of the effect of the pollutant is people who live around the source. It can be airborne and go to other areas, but the source, facilities, people, the environment around the source will have it more, because that is where it is coming out from. So if the people know that what is coming upon them can cause them illnesses, for example, they will rise up to resist, and then they know what the company is expected to do. Even if you're not there as a regulatory agency, the people themselves will have to begin to demand for the best practice. So that's the point I'm making about consultation. But sometimes we make the mistake of running alone. As agencies, we have the power, we have the authority, but do you have the resources to always be there when you should be there? That's the first question. So you consult with the people who should know. Elicit their support in what you want to achieve. Give them reasons why it's important that that goal should be achieved. And once they stand up to work with you, the company will need to respond. Because if you're not there, somebody else is telling them, this is what the agency came and told us the other day. You have not done that. You said you were going to do this. You said you were going to give your workers protective devices, protective clothing. You have not done it. But at that meeting, you said you were going to do it. What has just happened? Your consultation has begun to yield results. The affected people are demanding for action, even in your absence. So I will pause here to take your questions so far. So if you have a question, let me see. Kindly indicate question or contribution. Okay, so what we do right now is it's good to know that a number of you are not even from Benue State. So right now in the chat box, name one company that is likely to emit an air pollutant in your location. Just drop the name of the company in the chat box right now. So I'm waiting to see the companies. And if you have more information about the company, let's see it. Yes, I'm waiting to see the first response. Yes, Dangote Cement Boko from Tenengi Livinos. So what is emitted? What is the air pollutant that comes?
Sir, you cannot, people in that location, that Yandi, Even if you farm,
Yes.
if I don't know that content that is emitted in the air, white like
Yes.
the cement itself, those people cannot farm.
Yes.
If you are passing, you can see the grasses there cannot grow well because of the substance is
Emitted
released. I
into
don't
the
know
air.
what the name is. Yes. And then you
Okay.
see the zincs there. You see them rusting very red. I know that the
Yes. Yes.
substance is very harmful. And then those people don't farm around that Benue cement as is. If you farm, the
See.
substance will cover it and it will not do well. It will not yield very good result.
Yes. So that's a classical example of what we're talking about. Now, as a regulatory agency, the first question is, do the people around that company know the immediate and long-term effects? Do they know what is coming upon them? And do they know the effects to their health and then to their environment? So if that kind of information is shared with everyone who should know, the people will rise up to say, no, we love it that there is a company in our location. We love it that we're now getting employment. We're getting that benefits from the company. But it's not to the extent that we will lose our livelihood and our lives. So that engagement with the people and the management of the company is very important. So you cannot make money at the expense of people's lives. If you make money at the expense of people's lives, it is not money. Okay, so Simeon is saying you have the cement dust, there is heat, there is soot, there are vibrations, and all of that. In fact, if we move beyond air pollutants, what about the excavation of limestone and how the entire environment is being degraded? Yeah, we have ACPAN in telecommunication industry. He has named the big names. The high amount of noise pollution from base stations. This is all over the country. And it will surprise you, Akpan, to note that when you see the EIA, they will tell you they're going to use brand new generators that are noiseless. So in the books, they will tell you they're going to, but in practice, they can go and get any generator. In any case, after 6 months, 1 year of running, that generator that appeared noiseless becomes a noise generating set. And because we do not have steady power at the national grid, people who have facilities like this are struggling to manage them. And it's a big issue. It's a big issue. And people don't even mind. Somebody can split his compound and give out a section of it for a telecom mast without minding whatever comes afterwards. And it becomes very difficult. Obajana Cement from Peter and Gobert talked about Shell. I believe that's in Jos. Then BIPC. Yeah, so this is it. We have a question from Nenda Steven. You mentioned that there are sometimes conflicts on which agency at the state or federal level. Yeah, I'm trying to get the full question. How can this situation be mitigated? Yes, you define the boundaries. I've been involved in the environmental impact assessment review of projects in Benue State since 2009. And some projects have national jurisdiction. Some projects are at the local level. Like telecom infrastructure, they have national, because the companies have a lot of, they are nationwide companies and their impact is much. So at certain points, we will hear Nesria saying this has to be done at national level. And some of them, you will see the environmental impact assessment done at the national level and circulated to all the states. So the point I'm making in responding to your question is, companies or actions, in environmental management, if you're setting up a filling station or a telecom mast or a cement company, it can be regarded as an action. So some actions have national coverage and importance. Those ones can be done by NESRIA at the national level or the Federal Ministry of Environment. No, NESRIA is regulation. So the Federal Ministry of Environment coordinates, the EA department, I believe, coordinates assessments, impact assessments of actions that have national coverage, for example, or importance. But if you come to setting up of maybe fuel stations or filling stations, as we call it, this is a local action that the owner may just be in one local government or in a state, even though some of them are operating in several states, But this can be handled by the State Ministry of Environment. Again, where there appears to be intersection, discussions can be held and then necessary actions agreed upon, so that those who have these industries are not having to receive people from the state government and receive people from the federal government and begin to wonder who they should listen to. So if there is a demarcation, which I believe by now should be, but in my thinking, the extent of coverage and impact of a particular action should determine which agency, federal or state, that should be able to handle it. I don't know if somebody else has a response to this question, very important question. Yeah, let me take responses. If you want to respond to the question that I just attempted now, what are your thoughts on federal and state government response to companies that have issues? I wish I can still remember. Some of you are working in areas. You indicated that you're working in relevant agencies. Yes, Akpan, go ahead and speak.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I want to speak directly with the experience that I have, especially concerning the sector I've just mentioned.
Yes.
It is more concerned that sometime, like 2 weeks ago, the Department of Environment, the Federal Ministry of Environment, published a review work that is they were doing a EIA review, and it was published on the ministry's website. They mentioned a particular location. They said the state that their project could have been state. in their report, they mentioned that they have consulted with the state stakeholders, that the state ministry of government, the local government, and the host communities. But
Yes.
in the area that I'm living, one of the projects is currently ongoing, but they have never come around. Even with the consultation I made up to the local government level, nothing of that nature is being done. And by tomorrow or so, the ministry will give them the certificate that they want so that they can roll out their project. Decisions like this, there is a in the social licensing, because the host community immediately will be experiencing the impact of that project, beginning from the phase, from the construction phase. So, how do we, or what measure can we put in place, or can we take to address this situation? Because the Federal Ministry of Environment at Abuja doesn't know what is happening at the host community level.
Yes, thank you, Akpan. That is another scenario that may arise besides conflicting rules from state and federal agencies. Now, what needs to be done? The EIA that has been published, it is the responsibility of the consultant who carried out the study. It is his responsibility to have done public consultation. So if he has not done public consultation, the people would not know what is going on. But before the report comes out, the report will have a component of public consultation. So in Benue State, what we do in that review committee is we don't just sit in the office, take the report, and then look at how beautiful it is written and pass it. We go to the field. And at a point we began to insist that when you say you have consulted Mr. A, B, C, D, put their phone numbers against their names so that we can check. So the first thing is, what level of public consultation has been done before the report is published? And no EIA report will be said to be ready if there is no public consultation. If there was public consultation, who are the people that were contacted? So the relevant government agency reviewing that report needs to confirm that there was public consultation. So if it is not sufficient, the consultant is asked to go and do his work. That's the essence of presenting the report. If you find that there is a gap, so if you have access to the report, review it and look at how far the public consultation was done. It is not public consultation if you call on just few individuals, give them some money, and ask them to agree that they have been spoken to. No. In a community, you have people who should know. The vulnerable, do they know about it? And the reviewing agency can go to such places and ask the people whether they know about the company that is about to take off in their own community. So my response is public consultation has to be carried out, and let it be in a way it can be verified. So once that is done, you're able to verify that the people know in the first place about what is coming to them. Knowing is not just about knowing the name of the company. Knowing means you expose them to the operations of the company, the impacts that are likely to occur, what will affect the air, what will affect the water, what will affect the soil, how is it going to affect people around the area, how is it going to affect workers. All this must be clearly documented, and when the problems are identified, then the measures that will reduce the problem or eliminate it completely should be put down. And those are the mitigation measures in an EIA report. So I don't know if that helps up.
Yes, sir. Let me just come again. In a situation that we have this, who is the person where we should address our concern to? Is it the project proponent or the consultant?
The report as published, you will read the report and make your remarks. Most times the federal agency or the agency that sent out the report has a reporting channel. So get someone, put your thoughts together and get someone who understands how to write to such agencies to write it. Usually, if you have a legal person, you put the issues that you have outlined, and the person can present it. Why I mentioned legal support is it should be presented in a way that the person receiving it knows that there's someone on ground who will ask questions if nothing is done. But if you're an expert, environmental expert, you can also respond. And where nothing is done, seek to escalate. This is where non-governmental organizations also come in, because they can, if an individual is not sure he or she will be heard, you can contact relevant NGOs around to be able to escalate. And once it's escalated, it becomes something that has to be handled. But if you don't, nobody speaks, and the period of presentation of that report elapses, they will take it that everything went well, and then the necessary certificates will be issued and the company will commence. I don't know if that helps. And yes, everyone who is on the call, you are free to speak and make your comments based on your experience and based on the work that you do. Some of you may have handled things like this. You're right here in the class. So let's hear you so that we can have it more, have it richer. Then the biosynthetic company on Boko Road, yes. It's one of the new companies in Benue State. And it's also, at one point, there were some emissions, and the agencies came after them, and we didn't hear about it again. I don't know if that issue has been completely resolved, but it's an ethanol plant. Economically, it's doing a lot. You see cassava coming from different states around Benue State, and they are quite active. Regards Dangote cement factory, how can the management and host community mitigate the challenges of air pollution? Like I said, the regulatory authority can convene a consultation or convene a meeting that can discuss this. The strength and willingness of the regulatory agency also counts a lot. Big entities like this will use their name and connections and almost not let you speak as an agency. But when it comes to what affects the people, the agency has the power. If no one listens, you publish what has happened. And once it is published and you have done your due diligence, what you have said is right, you will find voices arising to support what the agency is saying. So, first of all, like I said earlier, the people need to know what they are being exposed to. If it is life-threatening, for example, when they know that their lives and those of their children will be threatened by the current operation of the company, they will resist. And resistance does not mean carrying cutlasses and going to the company. Constructive engagement, putting the facts on the table, and then you're able to solve a problem that, if left unattended to, would have affected everyone. I don't know if that helps. Alarm. Don't know if that helps. Then Balogun says rice mills release large amounts of particulate matter, and most workers or clients do not really understand the long-term effects of these particles that they inhale. Very true. That's what people do not always think of their health first when they are looking for money. Otherwise, workers will not want to work in certain places because of the extent of exposure to air pollutants. In fuel stations or filling stations, for example, all staff are supposed to to wear nose masks and to protect themselves from constantly inhaling fuel all through the day. In the books, that's what the company will say they will do. That all their staff will wear nose masks so that they will not be inhaling PMS throughout the day. But how many wear it, even if they have? How many companies have it in place? And how much is a nose mask? How many wear it? If you do a survey now out of 10 fuel stations, you will hardly find one that you'll see any of the attendants wear a nose mask. But they are exposed to it every day. There are spillages. And because it can easily evaporate, even if there's no spillage, the process of dispensing, you will always have it, you always be exposed. So as an attendant, every day, 7 days a week, you're exposed to this, month after month, year after year. What will your system look like? But again, is there anyone who engages this category of workers in fuel stations? Do they actually know what the immediate and long-term effects of continuous inhalation of PMS would do to their system? Is there any awareness? So once people don't know, they assume nothing is happening until a strange ailment knocks them down. And even when that happens, we least think of the things we've been exposed to. We are not likely to say, how did I come by this ailment that is not even known in my family? What are the causes of what I'm feeling? How many times do we ask these questions? Do we even have places we can do authentic investigations to be able to establish directly that what is happening to me as a result of PMS inhalation? So the challenges are all over, but protection of ourselves is our primary responsibility. So if you're exposed, you need to know what to do. Some of you introduced yourselves as lab technologists. If you work in a chemistry lab, for example, chemicals are in those labs. How securely are they stored? Are the containers airtight or they are loose? What can you say about the state of the lab? Is it, when you get in there, do you have a system that you can store these chemicals that they will not be all over within the lab? The air that you're inhaling within the lab, is it clean air? These are the measures that we need to take to be able to protect ourselves and the people who walk around facilities that are likely to experience some level of pollution. ACPAN again are in a situation that the proponent conducts an ESIA of a project and submits a report to the Federal Ministry of Environment without visiting the state and community. What measures can be taken? ACPAN still comes back to consultation. Consultation
You have already
can be
that.
the EIS, yes. So even though it's a different question, but it's related. It's consultation, and when you hear consultation, don't look at the local level alone. It depends on the magnitude of the issue on ground. If it has national importance, your consultation will involve all the agencies that are relevant, including the people on ground. If it is something like a filling station, then it's the immediate community that you should be focusing on. But if it is something like, okay, like we've been talking about the big cement companies, for example, their issue can, if you just call the local people and the management comes to see those kind of people, they will think that if they don't say anything, so nobody will harass them. But if they see certain faces at the state and national level, they know these are the people who granted them the license to operate. And if they don't heed to what needs to be done, the license can be withdrawn. And if it is withdrawn, they cannot operate again. At that point, they will be compelled to listen and to take action. Now, Simeon, the amount of dust released into the environment through construction companies is so alarming. Those companies are supposed to continually apply water to reduce. Yes, in the books, just like you rightly said, that is what they will say they will do. Okay, but how many times do they bring the water in a day? Again, it comes back to cost. Every business person wants to save cost. So if they look at the cost of watering the road that they're constructing, maybe they need to do it up to 10 times or more on a good Harmattan day to be able to keep it wet and reduce the dust. They will begin to think of how much diesel that will go into, that if they are buying the water, they will think of how much they are paying for the water. And they might just do 1 or 2 times a day and walk away. Again, when information is shared, people are empowered to ask questions. Do the people around that road know that in the books, watering was supposed to be 10 times a day? So we need to be able to ask questions. And people can walk up to the authority and ask them questions so that they can have information to be able to work with. So these are some of the steps that we can demand for the right action. So even if we don't know, we are at liberty to walk up to the agencies that have the power to regulate and to ask questions. If they've not done their due diligence, our questions should make them do their due diligence so that they can live up to their responsibility as a regulatory agency. So these are the things we want to expose ourselves to. Very vital questions that are asked. You may not be there today, but you may be there tomorrow. What do you expect should be done? If tomorrow you become the political leader of a state, what would be your attitude towards agencies that have responsibility to regulate pollution in your area or your state? Because it looks like some of the agencies have the capacity to act, but they have not been enabled to act. So these are, until the chain is completely linked, there will be gaps. The laws that are establishing that have established the agencies, are they relevant today? They may be relevant yesterday, but are they relevant today? The penalties, are they deterring enough? So these are questions that we must answer if we will do what we're expected to do. So if you're on the call, just drop on the chat that I'm on the call. Okay, yes, Balogun, I can see you're still on the call. I observed something today. I will permit it because, yes, Livinus, I can see. John, Patience, Nenda, Alam, yes, Akpan, good. So I still have some people, but you need to prepare to come to class. Even though this is virtual, you need to prepare to come to class. If possible, make time to be able to follow what we are doing, so that you will not lose out of the discussion. I will end today by saying having a strategy to manage the quality of the air around us as an agency that has been empowered to do so has to do with clear priorities. You must know the problems around you, know how they affect people and the environment, and then what needs to be done to reduce the effect on people and the environment must be clear and written down. It's in many countries, these activities are not very clear and they appear complicated, but it shouldn't be complicated at all, especially if relevant laws or policies are clearly defined. There will be no ambiguity, particularly on who is responsible for enforcement in which jurisdiction. The roles of state authorities, the roles of federal authorities. Even at the local government level, what is the link? Even though the states have a clearly defined working relationship with the local government levels, the problem is most times between the federal government agencies and the state. But even at that, it's not supposed to be a problem. Because if a federal agency wants to work in a particular state where you come from, for example, the people that are their feet on the ground is the state agency. It is the state agency that knows everywhere the extent of the impact of a particular problem that needs to be solved, where the location, the source of the problem is, and what local efforts have been done, because you need to build on what has been done locally also. So it should be more of synergy working together than what we sometimes see. So synergy is important, and that can help harmonious working relationship. Now, for you to be effective, if there are measures that are less expensive and can easily be implemented, it is good. So as an agency, don't go and bring up a program that is not achievable. We mentioned that the priorities and goals to be set must be SMART. SMART means we can measure them, they are realistic, we can be able to achieve, and they are kept within a particular time that they will be achieved. So that needs to be done. Otherwise, you will just trap yourself, and then you will be saying there is no money, no facilities to do what the agency planned to be able to do. So keep plans within what is available and achievable. Problems are often claimed to be critical, even though they have little impact on human health or sensitive ecosystems. So check very well through your research to be sure that there is going to be impact and that the impact will affect people before you embark on the program to reduce it. Obviously, problems that are big problems, you can't miss them because you will always see it. Like the examples we've taken today, cement company. If you go there, the problem is very obvious. You will see it. So it's not something that you will say it cannot be noticed. So this is where we will end it today. We will continue tomorrow morning. I expect Dr. Adi in the afternoon. We spoke this morning. And always come on time. I thought I was going to see you all, but that didn't happen. This is virtual classes, but that does not rule out the fact that we should know the people we are engaging with. And that is why I shared my screen. I'll let you see my face when we began the class. So as we move forward, if you have to speak, we'll see. I kept quiet today because you may not have been in the right environment to be able to share your screen. The point I'm making is, take it that you're coming to class. Even if it is virtual, you're coming to class. If it were physical in the university, if you're in the class, you're in the class, and we can see you. And so we need to know each other. You need to know yourselves, and then those of us engaging with you from the department needs to know you. So on this note, we've come to the end of today's engagement. I hope you've been provoked to think and look around you and see what's going on. One advice I don't miss out to give to people who seek to see changes in their environment is do not be aggressive, be constructive, do your research, and make sure what you're saying makes sense to everyone who wants to be reasonable. When you make sense, even if you're not heard, you have put the issue on the table. And it's one step from no action. That means action has been taken. Even if it is not recognized, action has been taken. But always remember to be respectful, constructive, and always have your evidence before you put up any information about what's not going well. So thank you. And if we do not have response now, we'll call it a day for today.
So.
Yes, Freda. Okay. All right, so we are 29 on the call. This is better. I will check with the department to know how many people are here. Joy is going to share the attendance with me, and we take attendance seriously. Remember, these are block lectures. Once you miss it, you have missed it. I will share the materials, the PowerPoint and additional materials that I have for the course with you after checking with Dr. Adi if we're going to have, there's going to be a review on his part. Outside of that, I will send the materials ahead of time and as we progress in the week. Thank you and best wishes.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, Prof.